If there's one thing you can always be sure of in a Dragon Ball card game, it's that there will be a future Trunks deck. He's got viable decks in every color right now. It's kind of crazy, and it looks like he might even get a second green one here. Let's take a peek. So, right off the bat, we have this leader. This is something new, right? So red-green historically has basically only belonged to exactly Broly for Saiyans, and the energy exhaust negation hasn't existed. It's been like hard charge, or, you know, on turn 3, if you've got like Broly's in there, you can do it, but then you're locked into Broly cards, and it feels really awful. So this is a really great thing that we can just ignore energy exhaust for our first 2 turns, immediately put some cards down, and get some multicolor energy going. Likewise, it helps you at least take a couple of the dead cards out of your deck. Once per turn, on swing, you're going to top 5 for a red or green Saiyan, both 4 or less. Interesting that they wouldn't let you grab any cost. I don't think that would have been too strong, but at this point you're still grabbing super combos. You're grabbing Chi-Chi, Motherly Matriarch. I don't think she's even in my slideshow, but she's an important card, right? And then when your life is at 4 or less and you've got the Vegeta Rescuing His Son Z card in play, you draw 1, switch to active mode, pick down to 6. Pretty standard. Auto on the backside, when you use a card in a combo, you draw 1. Honestly, really solid. I mean, this is a pretty standard effect in lots of different leaders, and in this deck there are some ways that you can potentially turn this into a true +1 where you're comboing the card, drawing, and then you're taking the card back. But we'll kind of look at those in a moment. And then activate battle. If it's your opponent's turn and you have 1 or more red cards and 1 or more green cards in your combo area, I'm going to note here before we talk about the effect that this does mean you have to have 2 separate cards in your combo area. That does make it quite a bit weaker here. It's still good, but it's not that good, right? You still have to have separate cards, and it means that you're losing no less than 3 total cards in your hand to produce these cards. Now, some of them might replace themselves, or the cards get grabbed back from your combo area, or it's a super combo so they draw, but at the very least you have to use 3 cards to produce this effect, and I think that's kind of the deck's biggest struggle. But during that turn then, the next time you would activate a rival red-green, you reduce the cost by a red. I think this effect probably didn't need to be once per turn. I don't think reducing it by red is so good, right? Like, obviously it'd be really crazy if you could high roll and drop a couple of Vegetas right away, but I don't think doing it more than once is so strong. Especially because the big boss monster of the deck still costs 2 total. It'll cost you a green. And then the 2 cards that do arrive are not that crazy. They're good cards, but because they either don't have protection or aren't very offensive, like, it truly doesn't matter. But we'll take a look at those in a moment. Leader, honestly, totally solid. Draws on the front side, combos on draw, or combo to draw, and then you get some energy exhaust, so you start with 2 red-greens for free. These are those red-green cards, so energy exhaust barrier blocker Trunks, he's going to arrive for either a red on your turn or for free on your opponent's, just one time. When it's played for a rival, you give something -5 for the battle. That is an okay effect. The fact that it's only for the battle is a little questionable, because it means that you can't, like, get out of a leader swing and then do that, but it does mean you can actually choose your opponent's leader instead of just that. But you can also choose Unisons, you can choose little cantrips, just to kind of clear out little stuff. He's definitely the card that you want to see as quickly as possible, just because you can produce a blocker to ensure that your Unison is more likely to survive. Being a barrier blocker, this is how you're oftentimes going to form your defense, is going to be with, like, dormant potential plus block here. But he's just a 4 cost, so that is kind of like the magic number for easy barrier removal right now. If you think about, like, Fearless Fusion in black, or you think about the Tapion 4 cost, like, that's where the removal is really going to be easy. And then activate battle. If you have 1 or more red and green cards in your combo area, draw, switch it to active mode. So that's going to be, again, 2-card combo. But if it happens right, you might protect him and then switch him back to active mode and he gets to block again. There's a lot of different ways that this can be good. Likewise, it's not limited to you or your opponent's turn, so it can become kind of a dual attack if you apply the pressure using those cards. The Vegeta all the way on the right there, innate power of the warrior race. Double strike arrives again for red on your turn, nothing on your opponent's. When it's played, draw 1, add 2 markers to the green Z Unison with a specified cost of 1. So unfortunately, you can't add it to, like, Bardock or anything. You have to add it basically only to this card. I guess you can add it to, like, the Bojack, but you're never going to do that. And then choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards. It gets -15 for the power. This card is extremely solid. I really like the draw one. The -15 plus the fact that you're comboing 2 cards means that there's no less than a 25k power swing. So you can basically get yourself out of a 40k attack using that, or rather get yourself out of a 35k attack using it. So it's a really huge swing in tempo, and then the fact that it's 20k double strike is solid, especially with the fact that you're going to usually have your cards be about 5k stronger. And then finally our double name, double strike, arrival for red and green, so this means it's red and green on your turn. Ooh, woof. Or it's just green on your opponent's turn. But the problem with arrivaling it on your opponent's turn is that I don't see the red box of barrier or deflect on there. Really more barrier is kind of the main thing, so your opponent will probably just remove it, since there's enough 1 energy removal in our game that your opponent's more likely to just go, alright, I'll spend the 1 and remove it. When it's played or attack once per turn, you choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards in Unison's -20, and then your opponent adds a card from their hand to their Z energy. So it's worse hand control in the fact that it goes to their Z energy, but it does mean that they wouldn't be able to Dabura you. And I think that's really useful, but I don't know if this card is so strong that it would really matter. There's a lot of plays that I've had so far where you get the early tempo and you arrival this on your opponent's turn when they maybe weren't expecting it, for a green, right, for your last energy, and it's like, if they didn't have the early game removal, then you get 2 instances of, hey, lose 2 cards and -2 things. But that doesn't necessarily always happen. And then activate battle if you have the 1 or more red cards, 1 or more green cards, draw a card. So this card at least replaces itself, makes your opponent lose a card, and then minus is 20. So it is pretty solid, but it's nothing super crazy. I'd like to see this get pushed a little bit further if possible. I just think this deck is a little heavy on energy on its turn. The Z cards. The Vegeta rescuing his son is the backbone of our deck, so we go ahead and we play out the situation reversal on attack when he's under. It doesn't matter if they can't really negate, they're really not going to, but it's when this card attacks, you place up to 1 from underneath. So the situation reversal, this is a lot of text. I'm going to explain it very simply. If you have a rival card in play, you stun either the Vegeta or the Trunks into your combo area, and then you can't play non-arrival battle cards for the turn. At the end of the turn, you'll get rid of that card. Because it's stunned in your battle area and can't be removed, or combo area, sorry, one of the best parts about it is it means that basically all of your attacks and defensive pieces are going to get a 5k boost for the turn. This is going to be really helpful that, like, it allows you to swing under Explosive Dance while still getting an additional 5k. It allows you to constantly combo out of, like, a 15k rush strategy, getting out for free. Your 20 double becomes a 25 double, your 25 becomes a 30, things of that sort, right? And then it has the once per, I guess, the activate battle, remove it from the game. It's kind of a once per game, but it's not really. You use up to 1 multicolor card from your drop with its skills negated, so it's just basically a, hey, 1 time, 1 10k. One huge piece about this card is since it has a 5 Z card cost, right? It's like the 5/5. This does make the Goku counterplay decisions made from the Green Gohan deck very playable in this deck. I haven't found it to be crazy useful yet, but it does occasionally come up, right? Having access to more charismatic villains is very useful, and you're probably going to play it because Father-Son Solidarity is still Green's backbone, and so if you can burn your opponent from 3 to 2, it's a decent opportunity as well. Finally, we have the Future Thug 17 and 18. Activate battle +1 and add up to a spirit, one of the warrior spirits from your combo area to its owner's hand. This is what I was referring to, where you would combo it, draw a card, and then at the end of the turn you'd swing with the Unison and just add it back using a +1, which is good. It's also add up to, so if you just want to add markers to it on your opponent's turn, if they ever don't attack this Unison or you ever get to draw, you can just immediately activate battle +1 to get an extra marker on there. And then activate battle -2, use up to 2 red or green cards with 5k combo from their drop. If their skill's negated. So that's honestly really solid in that, like, you can you basically get -2 to get 10k combo power, but it can also trigger all of your effects, right? So if you think about your leader getting a draw, great. You think about how your leader could then reduce the arrival cost by a red, great. You get the draw off of your 6 cost, great. You get the restand off of your Trunks, great. There are games where definitely if you arrival 2 or 3 Vegetas plus you're plussing 1, you can very easily get this card to like 7 markers, and then for 2 or 3 turns straight, you just get to go -2, get a free 10k combo instead of just adding back the 1. And that's really very useful. This card is super solid. Very impressed with it. I really like the design too. Anytime that you have Unisons that kind of were intended to be like alternate dimension cards. I really like that. Like having these cards help out our Trunks in the Bojack Saga is really cool. Here are our rival pieces. They all basically have the exact same text on the bottom that activate battle limit 1. They can basically place themselves in the owner's drop to combo with one of the other names, specifically being Trunks or Vegeta Warrior Spirit, and it just allows you to fix your colors in your combo area. When the Trunks or Vegeta are played, they draw one, and then they Foolish Burial, putting one from deck to drop of the other name, and then they cost a red or a green to play it from your hand. Activate battle. So this is great that the only time you're not going to get a turn 1 cantrip is going to basically be when your opponent doesn't attack. You go first, you don't open a cantrip, and then your opponent doesn't swing. So that's a pretty unlikely scenario, right? That's a couple different things going wrong, or a couple different very specific matchups that it's really not going to happen. Yamcha and Krillin tournament entry are the top 5 in draw for the deck. I think Yamcha is worth playing. I don't think Krillin is really worth playing at all. There's just kind of no reason to include extra mono red cards if you don't need to, because you're already going to be playing things like Chi-Chi Motherly Matriarch, and as well as the fact that between Trunks, Vegeta, and Yamcha, that's 12 different activations of comboing with a red card if you want to. So that's the way to go about it. Archetype fluff. These cards are not great. The TP Goku is okay. It's a really blurry image, as you can see, so I apologize about that. But the Gohan one blow to protect Earth is very thematic, where the Vegeta and Trunks get removed. You can pay 2 to play it from your hand and KO all of your opponent's battle cards. Why did it cost 2? This card is so weirdly balanced. If this card was just like a double strike and it only cost 1, I think this card would be probably pretty playable at like 2 copies. But for 2, that means that no less than 3 total energy is gone to this commitment, because you go, alright, I'll play a Trunks and Vegeta on your turn, and then we're gonna go, yeah, like for 1, right, for 1 on their turn, and then they remove it, and then you pay 2 for Gohan, and it blows up their board, and that's great, and then it's like a 30 triple, but they could just then negate it on the following turn, so it's not really so strong that it like needs to cost 2, and I just don't see how this card can be played. Like, if you're passing with the reopen energy, you're really telegraphing what you want to do, and I don't think the payoff for the Trunks and Vegeta getting to attack twice is so strong that your opponent wouldn't just remove it anyway and then just take this blow up. Goku Unexpected Meddling. This is the very blurry TP, but I believe that says blocker at the top. It's kind of hard to tell. Counterattack, play this card. If your leaders are Green Trunks Future, you can activate its counter skill without paying its energy cost, which is really great, because, right, you're not actually negating the attack. But then activate Battle. It looks like you get to combo with a mono red or mono green Saiyan from your drop area and just use it with its skills negated, which is solid, right? It means that you can basically play this leader, you know, combo with a red card, draw off of your leader, combo with the Goku, and then that produces like the red-green, or he's obviously a 15k attack, or he can block if that really is blocker. It's just kind of hard to tell. But really, it's a solid card. I don't know if it makes the list just with Green's card quality being so high right now, but it's something to consider. Finally, we have Tien Shinhan. Counterattack, play this card, and then you get to bounce back a rival red-green Saiyan. This card sucks. Don't play it. Not a whole lot to say about it. The extra cards. Top 7, activate battle for a red or green Saiyan, use it in a combo. This card is really bad. There's just no, like, this card could just be a red or green Saiyan. Like, you know, it doesn't really matter since its skills are negated. You don't really want it to have its, like, there's no point, really, right? Like, all it does is find the color you're missing, but you could just play, like, you play plenty of each of the colors. So this card's also terrible. I think this is just literally an extra card. Deadly Offense and Defense is a little better. It's not great, but it's fine. So if your leaders are red Trunks, or the green Trunks, you draw one, choose a 20 of your cards, it gets 10,000 for the battle, and then you use a mono red or mono green card with it from your drop area in a combo. So, highest possible outcome is that this is a 1 energy 20k. Draw a card, so you replace itself, and then you get to combo with a card from your drop area, your leader draws, and then you get 10k battle, right? And so you can combo that additional card if you want, and it's basically a pay 120k. So I've played this at 2 in the deck. I think it's fine, but again, I think the green card quality is really high, and if I'm going to spend 1 on a defensive card like this, Drawing is cool, but I think I'd rather take the Cells Kamehameha chance and rip their good cards. Just because this card is really, really dead in your hand, and there's already so many red-green cards in the deck. Not to mention, you know, 3 or 4 Dormants, and 3 or 4 Unisons, and how many Homicidals, and whatever other negates. I think it's not really worth playing more than, like, 2 copies of any of these battle extra cards, and even then, I think it might be worth 0. But it is still a pretty solid card. This is just the red-green gang. I'm not really going to read these cards individually, but I do want to talk very briefly about the fact that you do need to kind of run about 16 total red-green cards to guarantee that you're seeing one on turn 1 and then again on turn 2. Because if you don't have the double red, your deck is going to flow a little bit worse than it otherwise would. Raditz is just a free combo. Broly is a good arrival. The new GT Goku is a fine card. To me, the problem is that it's very expensive because you have to tap a card, as well as then he's going to cost 2. He's also a 1/5K instead of a 1/10. Champa Beerus just gives double strike to any of your attacking cards. Most of your bodies already have double strike, but since it gives it for the turn, you can give it to your barrier blocker Trunks. That's basically going to be a dual attacker for the turn, and that's really solid. Likewise, if you're running a 6-cost Overwhelm, you can also give that card double strike. Goku Unwavering Conviction is an excellent arrival. It just has some extra power boost, and the fact that it kills combos does mean that you can interrupt your opponent's game plan frequently if they weren't able to build Z energy at the right time. King Vegeta is a free arrival, and that's really interesting, but it's just like a -5 battle trick. I think that's okay, right? Because you're still producing him as a card. The real problem comes down to the fact that he's just super vulnerable, and so you'll basically go card for card on -5, and I don't know if that's really worth it. Resonant Explosion is a battle trick, pop a 4 or less, and Vegeta is really, really complicated. He's like occasionally a blocker, occasionally he rips 2 cards or KOs something, but I think he's just one of the worst arrivals. I think my general advice here would be to probably play like 3 or 4, like Raditz is the most, and then like Goku and Champa Beerus as the follow-up. Unwavering Conviction Goku, I should say. The super combo question. So, there's actually a lot of good super combos for this deck. The red-green stuff, so Nappa playing itself after the battle, or Vegeta creating a Cyberman token with blocker and unique. The card is okay. I don't know if these two are either really worth it. We're not really hurting for making the red-green in our deck. And the fact is that you would be giving up the draws individually anyway, because you're no longer drawing those 4 cards, so it doesn't really make up the hand size difference. I'd say the best application for them is the fact that they have their own additional skills, right? Nappa can be used as a 10k twice to boost up your card's power, and Vegeta can obviously create either a 15k combo or produce the blocker, which can be useful when you're doing things like Dormant every turn or on using Awakened Rage. Then we have Paragus and Toby. Paragus is the obvious draw 2, warp 1. Fixes dead cards. It's really, really strong. I don't think I have to explain this one. It's going to be searchable. And then we have Toby. This card's a little weirder. This is from the cycle from set 13, where when it's using a combo, you still draw one. It's only a 0/5 itself, and then it pluses a different card in your combo area by 6k. When I played this deck several times the other day, I thought that this card would be very useful in that it would combo, and then you go, alright, well, I'll choose the card that's stuck there, and then it gets +6 combo for the battle, and so you get out of 30k attacks for 1, right? But what actually would end up happening is there were not enough 30k attacks that this card ended up mattering. Obviously, if you're playing against, like, Black or something, that might come up, but this is really not going to be a situation that this is going to be super useful. Like, I'd rather get the filter of Paragus, not to mention the fact that then if I'm just going offensive, I can just swing with, swing with Leader or whatever, combo Paragus, draw a card, and then draw 2, warp 1. That seems way better in my book than this Toby where, like, if they swing at exactly 30k or higher, then you might get that 1k difference to save you a card. I don't think that's going to be worth over the filter that Paragus provides. Going deeper in your deck, not to mention the fact that you're probably going to get dumped on anyway, and Paragus is going to save you in those dump situations because you're getting rid of dead cards and adding new cards to your hand. So I think Paragus is actually going to be the way, but I do understand why people might want to run Toby. That's a Vegeta with a rival. Says your opponent can't go to 2. If you pass with 4, your opponent knows what's up, so something to consider. I don't know if it's that good, but it is something to consider. And then really, that's just kind of turn it back to you guys. How are you feeling about the leader? I am enthusiastic because he's really sick and it's really cool. It's a very fun deck. Long hair Future Trunks is super awesome, but I'm not so sure about its super competitive qualities. I think it's good, but is it quite where someone would want to be, or does it even match up to the other Future Trunks decks? Trunks has a really good track record in terms of recency in the game. The red Future Gohan and Trunks is obviously meta. Black Xeno was recently meta, is going to be meta again soon. We have Green Trunks, which has kind of been like just another one of the green dot decks. Blue Trunks was a blue dot deck for a really long time. So I just don't know how this stacks up to the other Trunks leaders, but it seems fine. It's cool. Definitely give it a shot. Red-green is one of my favorite color combos. It's just historically, red-green doesn't have the card pool to take advantage. So I'd like to see what you guys have. Don't forget to like, subscribe, do all of the things. We're going to have BoJack coverage here in the next day or so. And I hope you have a good one.